Okay, let's go over the Broadcom trade that we did on April 13th. So for this trade, we ended up getting in here on April 13th because we had a bit of a relief from this move downward up into the 50, which is this blue line. It rejected the 50 and closed below it, which was a good indication that it was going to go even lower. We got in the next day, it flushed down, which was great for our trade, which is a vertical, a put vertical. Then the next 3 days, it ended up having a bounce and closing above the 50. So on this relief bounce, this second day ended up closing back over the 50, and I my game plan was get out if it had a second consecutive day over the 50, which it did on this day. But I saw that it sold back down and it actually crossed the 50 again. So I decided to give it one more day and see how the second day would open. The second day it opened higher at about 605. So at that point I just decided to close it just because the market seemed to be rallying, at least doing a relief bounce of its own. So we got in here on this relief bounce on the Qs. Again, the Qs, even the Qs were supporting that they were rejecting the 50. And then we had this down day on the Qs, which was correlated to that big down day on Broadcom. And then the next 2 days, again, they gapped up. The Qs actually didn't do much, but the semiconductors seemed a little bit stronger. They ended up closing at least above the candle of that big down day on the 14th, and then gapped up to the 100 and ended up rejecting it. Uh, so yeah, this trade ended up going against us, but seeing how everything's turning out right now, it seems to be indicating that it is gonna go back down lower. It's even back at the entry position that we initially made on the 13th, so it seems to be a good indication of another entry for the downside. The momentum's on the negative side. We do have a squeeze on the weekly, which seems to be firing lower, but that might just be consolidation before it moves up higher. It might just gap down to 500, consolidate, and then uh, then just jump up to 700. Most like the monthly and the weekly don't show any support until the 500s or around 520. Uh, Scratch that. You do have this move down here to 550. So it might just stop there. For now, another good indicator of why I entered this trade was on the weekly. If you see the fib retracement, it actually rejected the 618 right, almost right on the dot, and then came back lower. So that was a good indication that that the downside was going to be more profitable. Um, yeah, that concludes everything for this trade. On Monday, if the stock hasn't gapped down and it opens fairly close to where it's at right now, hopefully it maybe does a relief and it goes back up to maybe 590. I'll get in for another leg lower and see how that plays out.